Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here today with the first Cabral HouseCall of the weekend. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Just opened up the giant Word document where all of the questions get added each and every week. Love being able to move down. That's basically all I do to the next show and mark off where our 6 questions are going to be. No prep work is done ahead of time. I just like you to know I'm not here to provide you with a diagnosed disease or a medical treatment plan or medical cure. What I want to do is share with you underlying root cause reasons as to why you may be feeling the way that you do, so that you can better understand how to move forward with a healing plan to get better once and for all. That's what this is all about. Let's get into the show. First question today is from Kari. Kari says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you so much for all that you do. You're much loved." Thank you, Kari. Appreciate that. Right back at you. I recently landed in the ER with a ruptured appendix. Apparently, I had an obstruction that led to inflammation and ultimate rupture. I'm 51, so this isn't common in my age group, and I eat incredibly clean. I literally followed the same diet you recommend and don't even do cheat meals. I worked for 4 years to recover my gut, so this is heartbreaking in a lot of ways. My question is, what could have caused the obstruction? From what I've read, it normally happens to those that eat more of a Western diet and don't get enough fiber. I'm not constipated, eat plenty of fiber, and honestly don't know what I could have done. Thank you. You know, the truth is, Kari, and I appreciate you writing in, that there may be nothing that you could have done. So I'm not saying that you couldn't have. Maybe fasting, could have helped if you had done, but again, I don't like to look back in hindsight. Here's what I want to share with you. You're 51, you've been eating well now for 4 years, and maybe you've been eating well for 5 years, 6 years, but there was maybe 40 years that you weren't. And a lot of times with appendicitis that I've seen, it is a buildup of bacteria. That appendix is often looked at as like the lymph node of the intestines. And what happens is infections, inflammation, bacterial buildup can begin to swell that appendix over the years, and you can end up with appendicitis. I'm not saying that's what happened to you. I can't give you that diagnosis. All I can say is that you can be doing everything well. You could be on the right path, and unfortunately, things still sometimes happen, and you don't want to just say, oh, well, it's all for naught. You can say, well, could have been even worse. That's why the gratitude and perspective. And so what I would say is, okay, you had the appendicitis, you got it fixed, you're healthy, you're moving on, and now no more appendix to worry about, right? Like a little tongue-in-cheek, we have to continue to move forward. And obviously, if you're following more of a Mediterranean-style diet, there is no diet that has more positive literature behind it than a diet with good monounsaturated fats, good leafy greens, or good rainbow-colored vegetables in general, more plant-based, some meat still, some fish, that's okay, beans, legumes, all that good stuff, and you find what works for you, all right? Lara is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Listen to your podcast where you said that tapioca starch is difficult to digest. What would be a good substitute for it in recipes? Also, do you have a good substitute for nutritional yeast in recipes? Thank you so much, and happy healing to everyone. Same to you, Lara. Well, it's interesting. They're totally different, right? So tapioca starch, it's used in recipes to absorb moisture, right? So if you think about it, let's say you are, baking a pie. And the pie, instead of being blueberry pie, which isn't as high water-based, it's peach pie, right? Very high in water. And so you'd probably add some tapioca starch. And the little gel balls would absorb the moisture, and so it wouldn't be all runny when you bake the pie. I'm not a baker, I'm not a chef, I'm doing my best here to give you an analogy, but they do use that. So what you would do is you would have to use something else in order to absorb that moisture. And that's actually what it's used for, or cut down on the moisture. So for example, I'm just using pie analogy. I have a friend, they bake pies. So I just know a little bit about it. Not an expert by any means or stretch of the imagination. They don't have to do it with less water-based fruit. So could you substitute a less watery thing in the recipe in order not to have to use any gums or thickeners at all? That's what we try to do. We don't use any tapioca starches or any thickeners. Now, again, you might be totally fine with it. Like that's the thing, is that some people are and some people aren't. But if I don't have to add a thickener to anything, I'm not going to. Now, nutritional yeast, I just keep it totally out of the recipe if it calls for it. I don't even do a substitute, just like vanilla extract. If there's vanilla extract in the recipe, unless I need it, then I'll find a non-alcohol-based organic vanilla extract, and I'll use that, or maple extract that's organic. But yeah, we don't even use nutritional yeast. So maybe someone in the comments below could give you a recommendation, but unfortunately, I am not going to be able to be that person. All right, Sam's up next. Dr. Cabral, thank you so much for all that you do. Your work has helped so many people. Thanks, Sam. I even tell my naturopathic doctor about things I learn on your podcast. I have a very strange question. One of my armpits emits a very strange onion-y odor when I sweat. Until more recently, my body never produced much sweat in general. Now, when I sweat, my right armpit will have a slight body odor, but my left will have a pungent onion odor. I have tried baking soda and antibacterial soaps, but the smell always returns. Do you have recommendations to help that I assume is a bacteria or yeast imbalance in the affected armpit? No other localized symptoms besides the smell, although I have systemic issues with candida, mold, and heavy metals in the past, or you used to have those. Okay. Yeah, happy to help. So I've talked about this actually before, multiple times in the podcast. And I don't know if I've talked about one armpit only smelling, like having an odor to it. And by the way, you can have body odor. Like that's not necessarily, I just want people to know, it's not a sign of bad health. Pungent, strong body odor, different story, right? There's might be a lot of toxins coming out. There might be a lot of bacteria. That bacteria is interacting then with the air, and then it's creating that pungent smell. Now, if it's only on one side, and there's equal sweat, it could be that lymph node has collected more bacteria, toxins, etc., and is being pushed through the skin, always possible. The other one is that there might be a localized overgrowth there that is, for the most part, unless it's a skin rash, that's the only way it's really noticeable, that there might be some fungal overgrowth or bacteria. So I'm not a huge advocate of antibacterial soaps because you kind of really destroy the pH of the skin there, but you might try something that is naturally antifungal. And you can find a bunch of soaps that are antifungal that are not detrimental to the skin. Tea tree would be one of those. Like a tea tree mixed with coconut or tea tree mixed with olive oil could be really great. Now, you could simply apply some apple cider vinegar, which is a pretty good toner that can kill some of that. And then afterwards, you could use, let's see what else you could use, colloidal silver spray, and that could help to destroy any bacteria or yeast there. You'd probably want to do that for a week or two. And then I would try, too, a different deodorant if you're using a deodorant. And I think that would be, I would say that's the place to start. And then obviously detox, right? If you haven't done a 21-day functional medicine detox, I recommend that. You can find that at stephencabral.com/detox. That's a good place to start, especially if you already fixed the candida and mold issues internally. All right, this one's from Anonymous. Anonymous says, my question is about gingival fibromatosis. I'm not sure if that is what I'm experiencing, but after some Googling, I think it might be. I've always had a gummy smile, and when I was in my late teen years, I had surgery to fix it, where I was told that I had excess bone on my teeth and that my gum grows over bone. So they had to scrape off the excess bone for my gums to recede. This worked great, and I was told as long as I floss and keep up with my oral health, I wouldn't have any more issues. However, now 8 years later, I'm starting to have a gummy smile again. I did some more research, and it says that it can be caused by hormonal imbalances. I do have PCOS, so that makes sense. I'm currently working with an IHP for my PCOS, but I was wondering if you had any suggestions for my gummy smile. Well, All right, so there's two parts to this. Gingival fibromatosis, if that's what it is typically inherited as part of like genes. Like the size of my nose is the size of my nose because of my genetics. How big my ears are is the size of my ears because, that's the way that it is, right? The color of my skin, the color of my hair, it's all like part of the genetics. And so is like, I have pretty large teeth, like pretty enormous teeth. Some people, they have smaller teeth, right? That's they talk about in Ayurvedic medicine. Pittas have smaller teeth. They might have more of a gummy smile, sometimes not, right? I've never heard the term gummy smile. I like it though. It makes sense to me. Totally get it. Some people have thicker teeth, right? And I have a cross between Vata and Kapha, teeth-wise, and so I have very thick teeth and long teeth. And so a part of that is genetics. What I would say is this. There could be an overgrowth, one, because that's how your body, like literally your stem cells or reproducing of the body starts to grow, because that's how your body's programmed to be. The other could be systemic inflammation, maybe from PCOS, right? And PCOS, though, has its own underlying root causes, right? Insulin, overall blood sugar levels, maybe higher testosterone, higher estrogen dominance, potential gut issues, higher levels of cortisol, lower levels of thyroid. But one of those things could cause inflammation, and the inflammation could absolutely affect the gums. So I think you're on the right track. Get your health absolutely in order. Love that recommendation. And then you might see a cessation of the gums, like them not continuing to maybe grow. So that's my best advice based on my scope of practice and what I work with. All right. All right, let's get one more question today, and it's from Justin. Justin says, what are your thoughts on benfotiamine? Well, we are referring to vitamin B1, I believe, Justin, so let's check it out because that's a very specific form. I have heard you talk about it, but I haven't heard you talk about it, but I've heard other functional medicine clinicians say it's one of the few beneficial synthetic vitamins. Also, I've heard that the reason B vitamins are yellow is because they are synthesized from sewer sludge. Is that something you've heard of? That's pretty impressive. Okay, let's break it all down. So the benfotiamine, thiamine is vitamin B1. So every B vitamin has a name that's associated with it. B9, almost nobody knows what B9 is, but if they hear the word folate, they know what folate is. Most people know what B12 is, but they may not know that its name is cobalamin, and then it's what's attached to it, methylcobalamin or dinosylcobalamin or cyanocobalamin, right? So what I would say is this. B1 is a very important B vitamin. We should all be getting it. It's especially helpful for the thyroid, for energy production, for stress reduction, all of these different things. To say synthetic is a little bit of a misnomer because in a lab, you can create what is called a bioidentical form of a nutrient to what the body is able to process. So like people don't typically have an issue with methylcobalamin, but methylcobalamin is made, right? You can get it, you can make it, you can take it, your body knows what to do with it, it's great. But if you create it improperly, like creating cyanocobalamin, which is the cheapest form, and that's what's mainly used in most vitamins and minerals, it's fairly toxic. Now, I know it's at high dosage, but still, it's B12 attached to a cyanide molecule. I have no interest in putting cyanide in my body. Okay, so a lot of debate over that. I won't go over that now. Most vitamins are, if you get them from a functional medicine company, they're going to be well thought out, well researched, and safe. That's all I can say. I formulate for Equilife. I know what I use is safe. I know that there's decades of use and studies, many decades, like we're talking about 40, 50 plus, right? I know that they work in the science. I know that they're safe in the science. I know they work in clinical practice, okay? Which is why I can't always use all the food-based forms because I can't get the dosage that I want, or there's a histamine response, or it's made, honestly, from yeast or fungus base, and I don't necessarily want those because they call it food, but I don't know if I'd agree with that. So I'm just trying to do the best for, obviously, every human. What I can tell you is this: they're definitely not manufactured from sewer sludge, and the yellow actually comes from a B vitamin called riboflavin. Riboflavin can turn the urine yellow. it is naturally yellow. Just like methylcobalamin is naturally orangey or red. That's their natural color. And so, there's some wild things that are spread on social media. Creating B vitamins from sewer sludge is new to me, but you never know, right? You never know what's out there. I can tell you for sure, again, if you go with a good functional medicine company. So again, I formulate for Equilife, but other great companies, I always review and share the wealth every Friday on my show too with all my favorite companies. If you go to StephenCabral.com/resources, there's over 100 companies that I support and that I recommend and that I use. Great companies as well besides Equilife in the functional medicine space. Thorne, another great company. Pure Encapsulations. Like, these are great companies and I have no problem recommending them as well. I just know that what I formulate, I third-party test, I've used in my clinical practice now for many years, over 2 decades, and it works. And obviously it's not toxic. But again, if you find a vitamin at Costco, I can't necessarily make that same claim, right? That's the thing. So thank you, Justin, for writing in. Great question. Hope I was helpful. And we will be back tomorrow answering more of our community's questions. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at StephenCabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.